The pen trembled in her hand as snow drifted past the tall glass windows, melting into thin rivers under the pale winter sun. Laughter swelled through the Christmas party like a careless tide, bright ornaments glittered, and cameras flashed for charity sponsors, but at the edge of the room, with tears blurring her vision, Maribel Klein signed her name and ended a marriage no one in that hall believed mattered. The ink dried fast. Her heart did not. In that moment, surrounded by daylight and applause meant for someone else, she felt smaller than the folded paper that would change her life. Before the story unfolds, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength it takes to keep going when no one sees your worth, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Story Grid. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Maribel had arrived at the office tower that morning as she always did, early, unremarkable, wrapped in a gray coat that hid the careful tailoring beneath. The Christmas party was a midday affair, hosted to raise funds and impress donors. She helped arrange centerpieces and checked seating lists, invisible by design. Few people knew her beyond a polite nod, fewer still cared to ask. The divorce papers had been slid across a polished table by a legal assistant who didn't know her name either. It was efficient. It was final. It was meant to be discreet. Her marriage had unraveled quietly over years of absence. Her husband, Arden Vale, had become a man who loved headlines more than mornings at home, who collected praise and spent it freely, leaving nothing for patience or tenderness. When the distance grew into silence, Maribel learned how to endure without noise. She worked, she volunteered, she gave anonymously. She learned how to smile at parties and cry only where the sun couldn't see her. Signing those papers felt like admitting that love could be outgrown, that promises could shrink under ambition. What the room didn't know was that Maribel had built a fortune before she ever wore Arden's ring. She had sold a logistics startup at 26, then quietly reinvested, guided by a belief that wealth was a tool, not a throne. She hid her success the way some people hide scars, because it had taught her how quickly affection could turn transactional. Arden had loved her simplicity. He had never asked for more. She had never offered it. The party continued, all daylight cheer and polished speeches. Maribel stepped aside after signing, pressing her palm to the cool glass as if it could steady her breathing. Outside, the city shone clean and bright, winter crispness sharpening every edge. Inside, she felt the ache of starting over without witnesses. The challenge wasn't losing Arden, it was losing the future she'd imagined with him. It was accepting that love could fail even when you tried to be kind. Change began the way it often does, small and unannounced. A donation tally fell short, and the room's energy dipped. A charity partner looked panicked. Maribel, still wiping her eyes, opened her phone and made a call. She redirected funds from a trust she controlled, enough to close the gap and then some. She asked for no credit. The number updated on the screen, applause returned, and the party found its rhythm again. No one noticed the woman by the window. By early afternoon, the sun angled lower, and Arden arrived late, flushed with confidence, greeting investors with practiced warmth. He didn't see Maribel at first. When he did, the surprise on his face was brief, replaced by relief that the papers were signed. He moved on. Maribel watched him go with a calm that surprised her. Grief had burned itself out, leaving clarity in its wake. The rest of the day unfolded like a montage. Maribel met with a nonprofit director in a quiet corner, setting plans for a daytime mentorship program. She spoke with an architect about converting an unused warehouse into a community hub. Each step felt like reclaiming oxygen. The room seemed brighter. The music softer. The future, wider. When the event closed and staff began packing away ornaments, a board member finally asked who had made the anonymous gift. The truth surfaced not as a reveal, but as a correction. Heads turned. Faces softened. Arden returned, confusion sharpening into disbelief as he realized what he had lost, not money, but the steady generosity he had mistaken for weakness. Maribel didn't savor the moment. She didn't need to. Freedom was enough. Near the end of the day, as the last sunlight brushed the floor like a benediction, Maribel stepped outside. The city hummed. Snow glinted. She felt lighter, not because the pain was gone, but because it no longer defined her. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and engage with this video. Your support tells us these stories matter, and before we close, a special request. Comment the word hope if you believe endings can also be beginnings. Maribel walked forward without looking back, carrying a quiet resolve that didn't need applause. The papers were signed, the party was over, and daylight still waited.